Welcome to the Inspire podcast, where we interview inspiring people from around the globe who are uplifting their community by finding solutions to our world's problems. My name is Em Barrett, and I am your host. And I hope that you'll get as inspired as I am by meeting these everyday people doing extraordinary things. Welcome to the Inspire podcast. I'm Em.
And I'm Kevin.
And we're the co-founders and co-editors of the Inspire platform. Yeah, this is our very first episode, so I'm really excited to talk a little bit about what we're doing and what is the Inspire and introduce the podcasts. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, yes. I'd just like to say, too, that I'm really excited about the podcast series that we've been working on and this chance we have to talk together. I know you've been doing interviews with a lot of different people. And the chance that we have now to sit down and just talk a little bit about what we're doing and what we're trying to do here at the Inspire, I think it's fun. I think it's good to have this time together.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we could start off even just talking a little bit about what the Inspire is, what is the platform that we've been working on. So yeah, I can start, for example, and talk about, we're kind of a multimedia platform. So we started out as a website publishing mostly written articles, and a lot of these articles were interview based. And I was having a lot of fun with the interviews and talking to these people. And I thought it's a shame that no one gets to hear those interviews. So that's where the podcast idea came. And yeah, all the content that we want to create now is just through interviews. And it's specifically with people who are trying to find or work towards or are dedicating their lives to solutions to the world's biggest problems. So, I mean, this is like a big topic, but to give a couple of examples, we really have a lot of different themes. A lot of them intersect as well, but there's like the climate change, climate justice movement, there are gender issues, race issues, education, and I'm probably missing out on a couple, but it's just people who are really working towards trying to find solutions and to make this world a better place. And would you like to talk a little bit about why we think it's important to talk to these people and get their voices out there?
Sure. And I think maybe just to add too that one of the common threads in all the articles we've been doing so far is also injustice and some people who are dealing with different forms of violence and trying to come up with ways to address the violence that they're being subjected to. So I think that what you said, injustice and the violence also, definitely common threads through what we're doing. And why is it important to do it now? Gosh. I think the idea of the platform is essential because generally in the media, the traditional media, these are stories that usually don't get any press at all. They don't make the headlines. They're not what's getting talked about. And the stories that we've been writing articles about are also about people who are very active, usually has a following, but that following and the activity that they're doing is not all that well known to the general public. We both thought that was really a shame and also something that we could do something about. Not that we're a small voice, but the idea is to use our platform and to amplify the voices of the people who we think are making an important impact on the world. They're surrounded by people who are also following them. But usually, just if I give you an example, on social media, lots of times, some of the people we've written articles about, they have a social media presence. I was just looking at the people who are the last winners of the Goldman Prize, the Green Nobel, that's out over in the U.S. And so 7 people who are being recognized for their contribution to what they're doing in their country or on their continent to make a positive impact on the world. And you look at the social media presence of the people who receive this very, very prestigious award, and it's really something that gives me pause. It's whether it's Twitter or Instagram, Facebook, some people have less than 100 followers. Somebody who's very active among the winners might have 10,000 followers on Twitter. If you take the 7 people and look at the 3 platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, the total is probably less than 50,000 followers. It's just, it's incredible, given the important work that these people are doing, the winners of the Goldman Prize, and the platform that the Goldman Prize gives them. You would hope that there'd be more people following what they're doing and knowing what they're doing. And so we're trying to help get those stories out there in our little way.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's really the first thought that we had about starting this platform was to really amplify these voices, give them a platform, let them speak with their own voice. That's why interview-based content is really important to us, because they get to speak for themselves. And a lot of them are really working on really innovative solutions within the field that they are working in. And usually it's within their own communities. And these solutions are replicatable.
You can copy them.
Yeah, you can you can do them elsewhere, and they're just great inspiration for anyone. And I think that also another thing that I think is really incredible by listening to these people and having personally spoken to these people is that a lot of them didn't study for ages to become an activist or specific. It's not like the specific field. It's just they really saw a problem, and it all started with like one action or one thought or one conversation. And through that conversation, like had a ripple effect where people grouped around that specific cause and people got interested and things like that. So it's just a really accessible thing to do. And I think that when we look at the news and look at what's going on in the world today, I mean, I personally feel, and we've spoken to some people about this too, people feel very powerless towards what they can do to help the situation. And it's just that the way that we get informed is not really told in a way that gives us possibility to take action. And I feel like listening to these people really can. So yeah, these are the reasons I think that are really important and the reasons why we decided to do that. And I wanted to also get to the beginning of our story and maybe talk a little bit about how it all got started. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, I'll give it a try. I give it a try because it was about 2 years ago. So what I remember was COVID, lockdown. We were locked down in France. It was almost like being in prison at home with the police on the streets. We weren't allowed to leave the house. And there was very little information. We were both used to going out in the world and being active, and all of a sudden we found ourselves at home and turning to the news on the television, on the internet, to figure out what was going on. And I felt like we were being bombarded, like a nonstop deluge of like these headlines over and over again. It's saying the same thing. It was all overwhelmingly negative, overwhelmingly menacing, threatening. It was important to get the news, but at the same time, there was not much we could do with that news. And like you were just mentioning a second ago, it felt rather disempowering or unempowering. I don't know what the word is, but it felt like we were just sort of submitting to the powers at play or whatever. So we started talking about, well, is this can't we find any other kinds of news? Is there any other like positive news out there? Is there anything that we can do to get like different news? Are there other sources? So we started looking, and there's a little bit on social media. There's some threads that people post positive stories or videos and dogs that are doing tricks and stuff like that. But you know what I mean. But that's not exactly what we're looking for. We were looking for news content, and not really finding any. We thought, well, what could we do if we could draw a platform that would give us what we wanted. What would it look like? And we started talking about it, and it had to do with not so much positive news, but constructive news that gave you information that you could do something with. That seemed to be a really important point. That it was regular, that seemed to be an important point. That it was also fact-checked and verified, and not just somebody posting a meme. We wanted it to be interview-based. We thought it was important to hear people's voices. And so we started walking through it like that, and then we decided to give it a shot. We created an Instagram thread, an account, started shouting out some people that we thought were doing cool work, and that allowed us to reach out to them and talk to them, and talk to them about the idea of maybe creating a news platform. And that sort of morphed or segued into what we're doing now, which is writing articles about people who are coming up with solutions to the problems that we face in the world. Like you were saying before, the problems that we face in the world, we don't face them individually in any one country. We're all looking at the same types of problems. So what's happening in, I don't know, in Japan or Indonesia or Mexico, in Ghana, is the same types of problems that we're facing in France and Canada et cetera, et cetera. So we're all facing the same types of problems. If somebody's coming with the solution that deals with an aspect of that problem, we can really, knowing about it, learning about it, understanding what they're doing, like you said, copying it maybe, or adapting it, we thought that was all really important stuff to do. So that was a little bit how we got into it. And it was all sort of thanks to COVID.
Yeah. COVID has been in a lot of conversations that I've had with people who work in that field, the people we interview and things like that, it's like COVID has been such a hurdle for everybody, but it's also been seems like a time for transition, and there's a lot of innovation that came out of that, actually. I mean, not diminishing like how terrible that whole period was and still is for a lot of people. But yeah, there was a lot of adapting that needed to be done, and so including us, we came up with this, and
Well, let me jump in, because one of the other things that I thought, we talked about this a lot back about when we started out, but with COVID, it was probably the only time in humanity where practically the whole world, everybody living everywhere, was aware of the same problem at the same time and actively trying to do something about it. And every country, every cities or whatever, in countries, they might have had different solutions, but everybody's really saying, this is a problem, what can we do? And sharing information about it. We thought, wow, that's really historic. And if we could do it for something like a virus, there's a lot of other problems out there. What if we could turn our collective focus on some of the other problems that we're all facing? So I think that was an important part of it too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. That's very true. And I kind of want to go back as well about what you were talking about with constructive journalism, because you were saying how there are some platforms out there coming out with, quote, positive stories, which are really good. And some of them are constructive as well. And some of them are just feel-good articles like lost dog was found and things like that. And there is purpose for that too, because as we've seen with the research that we've done, there's quite a big percentage of people who turn off from the news because it makes them feel very depressed. It hinders their mental health. There's a lot of apathy that gets created from being, like you were saying, bombarded by news that you feel completely powerless over. So being able to plug in to articles that are a little bit more feel good, I guess it's definitely soothing for that purpose. But you were mentioning constructive journalism, and constructive journalism or solutions journalism, it's like a little bit similar and also a little bit different, is something that's been going on for a little while now. And there are people really doing that. And there are some sources out there that are specifically focusing on that methodology. And we found people who were really practicing that. And that was really like a hopeful thing for us, because we're like, wow, there's other people out there doing this. So there is something to be done here. And some news platforms really just have like a section of that, or some journalists try to apply it to some of their articles. So this is a really interesting approach, and it's an approach that we got really interested in as well. And it's the methodology that we want to use and that we think about. It's really been the philosophy of our whole project and building the whole platform. So maybe I thought you could talk a little bit about for people who've never heard of solutions journalism or constructive journalism, just tell us a little bit what it is and what it means for you and for us, but also maybe as generally.
Yeah, sure. I can tell you what it means for me and how I look at it. But before I say anything, I'd say just to anybody listening, if you're interested, and I hope you are, just go Google solutions journalism, and you're definitely going to learn something. You're going to learn something about a movement that's out there.
Yeah, and there's actually, sorry to cut you off, and there is a solutions journalism network. And so that's really, really great. It's like a platform where a lot of people can learn about solutions journalism and solutions journalism articles. So yeah, I just wanted to plug that in before you continue. Carry on.
Exactly. They're an excellent resource. It pointed us in the direction of a lot of people who are operating in this space. And we found out that there are other organizations, there's other people out there that are really, other voices that are in search of solutions. And there's some really cool initiatives out there, and some really cool websites and social media feeds providing positive or solutions-based news. But for me, solutions journalism is usually somebody who's interested in writing an article or doing an interview. about a problem. It's usually a problem that's faced in society or social issue. And it's an investigative approach. And the person who is going to write the article is going to present the information about the problem, not just about the problem, but also what people are actually trying to do to resolve the problem. And that's where it differs, I think, greatly from traditional journalism. It's not just problem focused, it's also, okay, the problem's there, but it's not enough just to know the problem's there. And actually, that can sort of be very worrying, like you said before, anxiety producing or depressing. Some of the big problems out there can get you down quickly. But this is an approach where people they talk to people who are trying to do something about the problem. That doesn't mean the problem's been solved. But what it does mean is people are acting to try and solve the problem. And the journalists will look at all sides of the story, really trying to present the pros and the cons and beyond the pros and cons, the context and the difficulties that people face in trying to solve the problem. And then they just get the information out there. And usually what we found when we started looking at this, I thought that was really cool, is the people that read or listen to traditional journalism, they tend to sort of, like you said, so many people are actively looking to reduce their consumption of news. It's just they're being overwhelmed by the news that's out there. With solutions journalism, what's really cool is people actually feel inspired by the stories usually, interested in it. They're usually inspired to take some sort of action. Whether they do or not is another thing, but there's stories that point you in a direction of actually doing something. They're empowering, and they give people hope. And man, this is a time where I think hope more than ever is it's an important time to be cultivating our ability to cultivate hope and solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really interesting about that approach is, like you were saying, it's not just showing one side of the story. Let's imagine a story is like a sphere, and you're looking at all the sides of the sphere. It's like the problems, the root of the problems, the causes of the problems, the consequences, but also who's doing what about that problem. What's the impact of trying to solve that problem this way, and things like that. So it's just, it's way more well-rounded in a way. And what I find fascinating about that approach and that methodology to journalism is that it really just gives us a whole new perspective. And for me personally, what I think is really cool about that is that we're telling the same story, but it's just, you get a completely different feel about it. You get a completely different idea. Like, you come out of that, like you were saying, feeling inspired, hopeful. And that's, like you said, like really, really important. And at the end of the day, we're living in the world that we live in, and there's not much we can do about certain things, but there are things that we can do about certain things as well. And so if we just take that hopeful perspective, maybe that's the optimist in me, well, then at least we're trying, If we're all gonna die, at least we died trying, This kind of...
Yeah. Everyone is going to die. I mean, that's sort of, if you're born, that's sort of the destination.
That's what I mean.
But one thing I wanted to add too when I was listening to you was there's one really cool secret about solutions journalism, and it has to do with neuroscience. Now, I'm not a neuroscientist, and I'm just a guy trying to get these stories out there. But what we discovered about solutions journalism, and I can't remember if it was listening to some of the information on the Solutions Journalism Network, but was the neuroscience behind this, and the fact that with traditional media, there's a lot of scary headlines out there. You go on any sort of website, and you get inundated with these scary, big, sort of anxiety-producing headlines. I was just looking this morning, and they're talking about the Ukraine war. The West is united, but can it hold? Or the economy is on the brink. There's this other story about summertime travel and how it's going to be crazy because of all the different things that are going on with the airline companies and the hotels. So when you hear that kind of stuff, it produces hormones, usually hormones that prepare you for action because there's like a threat. So you're feeling threatened by when you read those headlines, and you're producing these stress-related hormones, which you need. But if you're producing that all during the day, every time you check in on your newsfeed, you're getting all these hits of adrenaline and cortisol, whatever, which is not good for your health over time, to be getting a nonstop feed of that. Whereas with solutions journalism, what's really cool is with the headlines and the stories, they give you a hit of hormones that are more related to feeling better, feeling more relaxed, feeling like you're able to take constructive action. So it's a whole different, like you were saying before, you feel different. You feel different when you read these stories because your body is reacting differently. Your hormones are, with solution stories, there's a whole different set of hormones that are being activated. And it's a really cool little secret. I mean, anybody interested in neuroscience, like I said before, Google solutions journalism, and the information's out there. This is a way to take care of yourself and take care of your mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that you talked about the science behind it and the way we physically react to these things, because I mean that's a huge piece as well. We don't really think about it, we don't really talk about it, but yeah, I mean all of these things are just beyond our control. So I think it's just definitely great to bring that up as well. And so, I mean, I know we can talk about solutions journalism and constructive journalism and how awesome that is forever and ever because we're really into it. But I thought we could also pivot a little bit and talk a little bit about the Inspire, basically what we're doing, and just discuss a little bit about why is the Inspire something that is really important as well and is something that we think that the world needs. Do you think you could talk to that a little bit?
Well, let's just be real honest, okay? Back a little before 2020, the UN was getting together with the COP meetings and saying that we have a decade ahead of us to enact change. From the years 2020 to 2030 are going to be fundamental for the world and for the people living in it, maybe more the people living on the planet than the world itself. So, and they came up with the Sustainable Development Goals, and there's a lot of action around adopting them and changing the way we do things. But then you look in the media, and the media is not reporting on the Sustainable Development Goals to any great extent. Most people, I'm sure, don't even know that there's 17 goals, probably incapable of saying what they are. So there's really a lot of non-information out there. We need to know more. And when we looked at the media, we weren't finding anybody talking about this. And if I know one thing, it's that we need to sort of accelerate our ability to change and to adopt change. And what's cool about the Inspire is that we're going out there and talking with people who are trying to enact change and accelerate change and amplify the changes that they're enacting so that they're taken on a greater scale. And I think those are really important stories to know. People lots of times don't know what other people are doing to change the world. Like I said before, these are not headline stories. You don't see them on CNN or wherever you get your news. So I think it's, the clock is ticking. From what I read and the people I talk to, change is possible, change is necessary, and change has got to happen now. So we're trying to contribute to that and maybe create like a positive social tipping point. There's somebody really, really interesting to listen to if you get a chance is a professor at Exeter, Tim Lenton, who talks about positive social tipping points and the fact that when enough people start to do something new, something happens where it gets adopted on a large scale. And whereas it might seem like impossible to do some of the changes we need to make to reach the Sustainable Development Goals, actually, if you look to history and you see how quickly things like a smartphone or even refrigerators or cars went from 0 to like 80, 90% adoption rates, it can happen really fast. So there is things that we can do to move toward the goals that we need to move toward. But a key part of that is people knowing about that it's possible and having examples of people who are doing it. So the Inspire is really about that. It's about helping get that message out. Hopefully we'll be able to grow and reach a large audience. And hopefully what we're doing will also inspire other people to do what we're doing and trying to get these messages out.
Yeah, completely. I love the positive social tipping point that you're talking about. And it's really one of those things. It's like if the way we describe how we can interact with these sustainable development goals becomes a mainstream way of getting information, then I feel like people's way of interacting with the world itself will change too. And yeah, so we're starting small, but I think we're really hoping that this could be something that people will really catch on to and see the importance of, because like you were saying, hope is a really important thing to cultivate nowadays. And I think things need to change on a lot of levels. And the way we get information is one of them. And actually, in order to take action, in order to make decisions, we need information. But when we turn to, let's say, quote traditional news where things are quite alarmist, the headlines, the stories. There's very little or only like small sections of people working on solutions and things like that. The information that we're getting is not that useful to be able to build knowledge about what we can do. So I feel like listening to the people who are actually doing the things can definitely just change the way that we see the world, so that we can really put our energy and our actions towards working towards those sustainable development goals that will save humanity. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that's
yeah. Well, that actually speaks a little bit about how we are imagining the future of our platform, imagining the future of the Inspire, what we would like it to turn into. There's lots to do before it gets to that, but maybe we can talk a little bit about our hopes and dreams and also our plans to get there.
Sure. Well, I think there's some really cool examples out there, really interesting examples of people who are doing similar things and who, thanks to social media and the other tools we have today, like this podcast, we're able to get our messages out to a broad audience in a way that's never been possible before. So the people who are in this space, frequently their activity takes off very quickly and can reach a large audience. And I really think that's is key. We need to be sharing information today. We need to be, honestly, why I got involved with this is not so we can build some sort of media empire. That's not the idea at all. The idea is to share information, get the information out there. And the more people that we are, the more of us that there are that are sharing information, the more it's going to help everybody. And some of the other initiatives we see that it ramps up quickly in a short amount of time. We're hoping that between the podcast series and we're rebranding our website, we're hoping to reach a broad audience. And we're combining that with our social media activity. Instagram is a key part of that, as well as Facebook and maybe less Twitter. Twitter tends to really drag the conversation in a different direction than we want to go. But it is important, and it exists. And so we're trying to just do the podcasts, write the articles, share them, create a conversation, and see how we can help get people's messages and stories out there.
So we want people to come and join us and who believe in what we're doing as well to join us. So if you're listening and you want to join us, please do. We'll drop all the information at the end. And also the way that we want to roll out content is really do like a topic a week in the beginning and really focus like 1 week per solution, let's say, or organization, and have a podcast episode, an article, and a bunch of different types of social media content around that solution, around the people who are working that solution, to really do like a mini campaign around their work. Because I think it's really important to, sometimes we're on social media, we'll see something and then the next day it's something else, and so it can get lost in the crowd with all the stuff that's going on there. So yeah, that's our original plan for September. And of course, as things move along and more people join our team, we would like to grow and publish more and more content on a more frequent basis.
Yeah, and I think this, I guess the idea behind that is also to slow down the news cycle, take some time, delve into some of the subjects that we're talking to people about. That's one aspect of it. And the crowdfunding campaign that we're going to be launching is also key. What we've been doing, first we're doing it in our spare time, then we launched the website, and everything we've been doing is out of pocket. We're doing it a year now, so we sort of floated the idea. We wanted to see how it went, and since we've got feedback and support from over 1,000 people now, so there's people that are interested in what we're doing. There's a public, there's an audience, and we'd like to reach a greater audience. So we'll see what we can do with the crowdfunding campaign, and sort of, it's important. We need to know that we have the support to do this. If we don't, then it will have been fun and important, I think, too. But if we do get the support we need, we're going to be able to recruit and build a website and really work on creating a grassroots movement to build a community interested in solution stories and interviews with people who are taking on some of the big problems in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, the crowdfunding campaign you can find on our website, theinspire.news, and all our social media is also Inspire News. And I really, really recommend you going and checking it out, even if it's just to check out what we're doing That's great. Just follow us on our social media as well. If that's all you can do to contribute already, that helps very largely. And sign up to our newsletter that you can find on our website as well. Yeah, so I just wanted to put a little shout out for that as well. But yeah, I also wanted to switch and ask you the last question because so this is my favorite question slash the famous question of the Inspirer is that from the very beginning we had this motto, which is inspiring people. So it's kind of what we were talking about earlier as well, that when we see inspiring things, we feel inspired. And everyone that we interview, I personally feel is a very inspiring person. And I'm sure you all will too. That's why it's fun to also ask these people and ask you in this situation, who inspires you?
Well, I knew you were going to ask this question. I thought it over and over again. I was like you, I mean, every single one of the people we've talked to, whether it's the interviews or the articles we published, have been so inspiring. It's an incredible journey, really, that they're on and that we've been able to go on ourselves. But I think maybe more than like an inspiring person, there's this inspiring quote that really, 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 really guides the way I look at things. But Margaret Mead, who is the anthropologist, she said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has changed the world. And man, I really, 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 really believe in that. And when I look at it, I think the people that inspire me, it's usually underdogs. It's people who are, there's this like power dynamic and where people are not, they're facing somebody who's more powerful and more entrenched or better organized than they are. And they're saying, but wait a second, I want to do something. I have an idea. I want to, or not sometimes I don't agree. I want this to change. And those are the people that inspire me, really. It's the people that decide that this is a problem and somebody's got to do something about it. And since nobody else is, I'm going to do it. And they actually go out and start to try and make change. And those underdogs are really, ever since I've been a kid, that's really who inspires me. It's like the underdogs of the world.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I want to share as well a little bit about what I find inspiring and who I find inspiring. And it's true that it is a hard question when you think about it, because I always ask people, but then I never really thought about it for myself either. When you were talking, it really made me think about every single person that we've interviewed so far, we've been in contact with on social media, that we've talked to throughout this journey, everyone that's dedicating so much time. A lot of them are very busy, and I'm so grateful every single time someone accepts to have an interview with us, because a lot of them have never heard about us before, and they give us their trust and their time out of their really busy day to talk with us and trust that we're going to share their message out. And I really, really, really want to shout all of them out. And every single time I speak to one of these people that we interview, I get so touched and so inspired. And also I feel a lot of hope, even though a lot of the situations that these people are facing, like you were saying, are really, really difficult. There's a lot of, like you were saying, like there's violence, sometimes structural violence. A lot of the times, actually, structural violence. There's a lot of hardship that they're facing up against. But the way that they go about really tackling these issues gives me so much hope, and with so much hope. And there is just something so powerful there. So I really recommend everyone who's listening to stick around to this podcast, because you'll get to listen to these interviews on the podcast, and hopefully you'll get inspired too. Because every single person that we interviewed really, really brought something new and taught me something new about how to look at things. So definitely I would say that. So yeah. So I think this is the end of our first podcast. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, or that you wanted to say, or tell our listeners, or, anything like that before we close off?
Yes, there is. This is just one thing I'd like to add, or sort of what you just said. You said it very eloquently about the people who have given us their time to explain what they're doing and accept to talk to us and answer our questions and help us get the message out by opening up what we're doing to their networks. And I just have a lot of gratitude to everybody who's helped us along so far. It's been really amazing. We started from nothing. And we're calling people, asking for interviews, and they'd go on our website. And it was a very bare bones kind of thing. And they said, sure. They took us seriously, helped us quite a bit. And hopefully we can help them and others get their stories out. It's been great. I just, hearing what you just said, it just reminded me of the gratitude I felt for everybody we've had a chance to talk to so far.
Yeah, for sure. I have a lot of gratitude as well to every single person who we came in contact with and gave us just even the time of a message and just cheer us on. Even if it was just that, it really helped us to get to where we are at today and hopefully continue to give us the boost to continue. So yeah, thank you for saying that. And on that note, I guess we can close off our first episode of the Inspire podcast, season 1. Yay! Exactly.
Season 1, episode 1. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a co-founder episode, so I'm really glad that we're able to do that and explain what we're doing, and hopefully everyone who listens will enjoy the rest of the series and also learn as much as I did by listening to these people and these interviews that are coming up. So thank you. Yeah, I'll speak to you soon.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Inspire podcast. If you like this episode, please subscribe and review our show. It helps us grow our audience. And if you want to know more, check out the article on our website, theinspired.news. And let's stay in touch. Follow us on social media using the handle The Inspired News. This podcast is hosted and produced by The Inspirer, and the music was produced by Robin Nicoli. See you next week.